right, so this is the In the Spotlight radio show right here on Q95. I know some of you might have been saying, there she goes with that theme song playing. But I know there are people who actually love the theme song and they don't mind when I allow it to play for a bit, because what they say is that it prepares them and it puts them in the mood for the program. So let's hope that that's what that did for you tonight. Good evening, everyone. Wherever you are tonight, tuned in and locked into the program, it is our pleasure to be here for another Monday night, another In the Spotlight radio show. We're slowly coming to the end of the year. We are in fact in the Christmas season. It is the week before Christmas. Next week, Monday, is going to be Christmas Eve, and the following day, Christmas Day and Boxing Day. So that's 2 holidays that we have, Tuesday and Wednesday. And so, you have to, a lot of house changing up and changing out is taking place this week, if it has not been done as yet. Maybe Christmas trees still going up. I don't know. I've not put up a Christmas tree, and I suspect one will not go up before the end of the year. But whatever it is that the season means to you, if it means, changing out everything and allowing your house to look nice and fresh and pretty with beautiful curtains and drapery and your Christmas tree and all of that goodness, then it's all good, especially considering last year many of us could not in any way celebrate Christmas. And so I think persons who are able to will most likely be going all out. Christmas fruitcake, ginger beer, cereal, and gifts. Just this week I was saying to a friend, there's one thing about going back to school is and self-funding your school, meaning that you're paying for it out of your own pockets. And the new semester begins in January, and by the 2nd of January you have to begin registering for your courses. And each course costs about $1,000. That means you need $3,000 when the year starts. Okay, some people are going to be without Christmas gifts. Priorities, people, That's how it goes sometimes. Welcome to the program once again. And tonight, we have a young man in studios with us, and I only now found out his age. I thought he was a little bit older, but he's not even what I thought he was. But he has accomplished so much within such a short space of time, and has made the decision to move on. And I was just talking about education. He is much quicker thinking than I was in terms of going out and making that decision to pursue his education at a higher level, and to do so at a very, very, very early stage in his life. So by the time he'll tell me whatever age he will be, what it is that he wants to be, and we will talk about that. His name is Sharon Burton. I hope I got it right. Sharon. You see, he says, once I don't call him by a certain name, but we're going to make it work. Let's make sure we have a mic working there for you. Sharon. Okay, which one we got, Sharon? Let's say good night.
Good night, Philina.
Okay, so I got your mic. All right. Okay, so let's get going. Sharon Burton. Is there a nickname? Is there some other way that people call you?
Well,
I need one for tonight. You have to give me one.
Well, going back to my high school days, I was called a lot Ja. You would have to ask them, but Ja was one, and also Rome. Most commonly by my cousin, Javon Christopher.
Okay, so I have to go either Ja or Rome.
And Honestly.
Oh, Burton.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
One of those is gonna have to work. But good evening to you, my dear.
Yes, good evening again, Fadina, and everybody listening out there in Radio Land.
It is a pleasure to have you here tonight. Is there anybody in particular, outside of everybody, generally speaking, that you would like to say good night to as we begin? Good evening to as we begin?
Yes, definitely my parents, Oliver and Corinne Burton, as well my sister and my niece, Sierra Burton, back at home. They've been my, most consistent supporters, obviously, my refuge, of course. Without them, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. So, honestly, to them, kudos to them.
Mm-hmm. And at such a young age, though, you've achieved quite a bit, and we will talk a bit more about that. I know it's about you tonight, but I always like, understanding a bit of the background, where you come from, what has molded you into the young man that you are. I was looking at your CV and your bio, and I'm seeing that you would have, along the way, gotten quite a few awards for best conduct. I mean, it says there that you were a very disciplined young man at school. But let us talk about your background and where you come from.
Sharon. Yes.
I think I'll be fine with Sharon, no worry.
Yeah.
Yes.
My background, where do I start?
Where do you start?
Well, you mentioned the word discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I would say two words as my mantra. That's what I took up: hard work and discipline. Well, especially now, to get me where I am today. So discipline has been a big part of it. Well, as you mentioned, throughout most of my years in school, of course, best conduct was one of the things I would have been awarded with. I don't think I was much of a troublemaker, evidently.
Clearly not.
I tried to be polite, helpful and so on. And I think that was recognized, so I think that's a good trait to have gotten me this. So I haven't been involved in much trouble, and that's a big part of it. The less you get distracted with certain things, the more focus you can put on bringing yourself upwards and onwards, and of course setting a good example for people. So those are my two keywords: hard work and discipline. That's the background.
Discipline in this context. Is it something that would have been indoctrinated from, a child growing up in your household? So let's talk about that type of background in terms of your family history, where you come from. Where are you from, by the way?
Yes, I'm Sharon Burton of Stock Farm, importantly in Rosenau Farm. I've lived there all my life. That's basically where I've been born and raised. So my family, of course, I live with my parents for even up to now.
Okay.
So that's been a good base to have a good nuclear family. My parents are together, very supportive along the way. I never had any trouble at home, per se. So that's been a really good base to grow up with. In terms of discipline, I don't think it was, so much active. I think my personality didn't require much disciplining. Mm-hmm. Disciplining being the verb. So I think it was,
I like that.
So I'd say for pretty much all my life I've been free to do what I want. I may not appear to be as active or outside, mm-hmm. per se, in colloquial terms, mm-hmm. as some other
yes.
young people, but that was more a personal choice, what I grew up knowing, and of course my own personality. So that's been part of it. I think the discipline has been self-realized. It comes from within.
Let us talk, Sharon, a bit about your parents and your family. Your mom, can you tell me a bit more about her? Her roots from Stock Farm or some other part of Dominica?
Yes, my mother and both my parents, they grew up around Roseau.
Okay.
Yes, my mother, born Corinne Walsh, now Burton. She was a good academic, from what I've heard. Yes, and of course, she lived with my grandmother, Kathleen Charles, in Goodwill. That's where she lives now. She grew up sewing as well, because my grandmother was a seamstress. In fact, both my parents grew up sewing. My father being a shoemaker too, but focusing on my mother, she worked in the public service for quite a long time. She got within Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Health, and she worked there for a number of decades, and I just only a few years ago retired. They have always been there, my mother, especially throughout the years. My mother even went to study in Australia, where she got a master's in business administration, if I'm not mistaken. And that was a year or 2 years that I was sitting CXC, so that was a bit of a having my mother away during that crucial time in my life. But it was all for the best. My father now, of course, he grew up around Roseau. He is better known as Neckers. So
Neckers?
Yes, K-Bot.
What?
K-Bot, that's his middle name.
Okay.
Yeah. He was well known as a basketballer. I believe he was the captain of the first national basketball team. I mean, everywhere I go, even now, people tell me about how well he shot the ball. Nobody shot it like Neckers. And, that's been something hanging over my head in a little way, because obviously I wasn't as accomplished in basketball even up to now. So it's good to have that sort of renown or recognition in the person of your father. He still is a very, very hardworking person, very self-disciplined and all round, and I modeled myself after that, being able to do all sorts of things, not just in your field of focus, but, gaining that knowledge everywhere so that you can be self-sufficient. That's another big part of it. Self-sufficiency, knowing how to do things, for yourself. And the more you're able to do for yourself, the more you're able to help others, whether it be plumbing, woodwork, hunting, fishing, spear fishing, even mechanic work, everything, painting. So that's been a...
So you're saying your father does a bit of all of that?
Yeah, all of them, not just a bit, quite well. And to a very good standard. I mean, he built our house in Stockholm, basically. He does his mechanic work, he does his hunting. Well, not now, during the season. His fishing, of course. I mean, if not for the fish over the past couple decades or so, I wouldn't be here.
Oh my.
Let's see, we never really had to buy fish in my lifetime. So that's a big part of it. And all of these things passed down to me, and just by example too. That's a big thing. But he also worked in the public service for a number of years at the Inland Revenue Division. He got pretty high, got to act as controller a few times, if I'm not mistaken. And that's been a really good example to follow. Going from national basketballer, that's one level. For a lot of his life, he was a shoemaker as well. I think that's one of his stories.
Well, you must be quite, I mean, someone has to be quite talented and skilled to even be a shoemaker.
Yes, that's its own talent.
Yes.
In a way, getting down to it, there's the dexterity, the physical skill, and not just that, being able to excel as well in the public service for a number of years, always well respected, and that's just what I set as my role model. What I want to be, have that level of consistency and discipline.
Oh yes.
And hard work through it all.
You seem to have had quite a solid foundation with this parents of yours, because they both seem very educated, very skilled with their hands,
Yes.
very talented, and I suspect maybe quite a bit of humility there, because based on what I see in front of me, how they say, dogs don't make cats, right?
Yes, definitely. I think that's, although I never really looked at that per se, that's one of the things that I believe is definitely there, humility in both of them. Never really living above all means, always, doing the right thing, being prudent, honest, and so on. So that's been a big part of my family life, and the upbringing that has got me where I am today.
You have siblings?
Yes, I have a sister and a half brother, or brother, you don't really call it half. Both of them are older than I. Soraya Burton is my sister. And
I've heard that name.
Yeah, She works in the public service also.
Okay.
And Marlon Nibla,
Okay.
or better known as Marlon, he's a police officer.
Okay, I'm not sure if I know him, but I certainly have heard the name of your sister. That's all right. So, in a nutshell, Cheryl, what would you say are the guiding principles that your parents provided you with, based on everything that you've said about the two of them, in terms of the persons that they are and what they've accomplished? How did that guide you in terms of your own upbringing, in a nutshell?
Well, in a nutshell, I would say I never really focused on that. It was more, passive, just by example, and I guess it just filtered in naturally, osmosis. Yeah, so I just, stayed focused, did what I had to do. I mean, in all the years I was at school, I never really thought about it as such. I just knew that, hey, I was doing well, and why not just continue doing well?
So it's just something that just came naturally.
Yeah, naturally.
To you.
Yeah. And especially in the past 5 years or so, I think that's when I really built up the character I am today. Before it was more autopilot, but now I'm starting to realize what all of these things are and who I actually am. So looking back, they played a big role in who I am today and getting those good character traits that not just got me where I am today, but also being recognized by others.
Okay, and actually, for those who are probably just tuning into the program, and maybe wondering why you're here tonight on the In the Spotlight radio show, and they might be saying, but who is this young man? So let us start talking about you and why you're actually here tonight. And in summary, I will say that this young man has been able to accomplish quite a bit within the last couple of years, and he's actually getting ready to go off to study. And so, I think the In the Spotlight radio show is about spotlighting everybody. And I really didn't want Sharon leaving Dominica and heading off to study, and we not get an opportunity to have this one-on-one, to have this conversation, so that we can get to know you a bit better. Me personally don't even know you that well. I know you from, being in the newsroom at DBS. I come around ever so often, if it's for the Flow program, or if I come to assist with news in review, year in review, or whatever the case is. I hear you reading the sports, but I don't think I know as much about you probably as I probably should know about you. But I thought it was prudent, it was important to bring you here tonight, because I think that you are a shining example. You're not perfect, like none of us. Nobody's perfect. But I think you are a shining example, and I'm saying that so the world can hear, that many of our young people here in Dominica should emulate in terms of being focused, in terms of going after what it is that you want to achieve, not only going after it, but achieving it as well. And you've stood out among many on the world stage recently as a Dominican, and I know that must have made you very, very proud. So I want you here tonight because I know a lot of young people listen to the program. I meet many mothers who tell me, my son and I sit together to listen to the program. And I want at the end of tonight's program, Sharon, that there will be adults who will learn by example from what you've done and what you're heading towards, and young people who will say, I want to be like him. So I want to be like Mike, I want to be like him. This is what I want at the end of this program, and I know that is what we're going to achieve, because there are many success stories among our young people, many, many success stories, and I know that you are indeed one of those success stories. And I want that story to permeate among, as far as this program can be heard tonight, or as far as this program can be seen tonight, in terms of those who are actually viewing via Facebook Live. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for consenting to being here. And let's talk, Sharon. So, you grew up in Stock Farm. What was it like growing up in Stock Farm? I know you said you were not outside, which means you were not on the streets and so on. So let us talk a bit about, what life was like growing up as a young boy in the Stock Farm community.
Well, speaking of not being outside, I wasn't outside so much, like every day and all that, but I've been around. I mean, Stock Farm, what can I say? It's a good place to live. I mean, it's not too far from Roseau, so you don't have that issue of, when you live in the country, having to pay all the fares to go to and from Roseau, and not being able to on some days. And of course, all the differences that comes from, living in a more rural community. So I think Stockholm was a great experience. I mean, it wasn't Simon Bolivar Stockholm more specifically.
You're in Regina's home.
Yes, she's just down the road.
Yes, she's been here.
Yeah, and just a couple lanes down from the prison.
Oh. Not the most comfortable place to live, is it?
But looking at it, it's probably one of the safest. I mean, who would want to? You never know.
But don't you? But wait. So I mean, wouldn't you get concerned or scared, for example, when you hear there's a possibility somebody escaped from there and maybe roaming in the area?
Well, they wouldn't be roaming there for long. Maybe on the way out. We always joke about that. But I mean, I could imagine living anywhere else. And again, it's close to some of my family members. It's close to Goodwill. You have, of course, where you have Linda Park. It was close to school, so commuting was never really a problem. To this day, I can ride my bicycle down to come here. It's no problem. Stockholm is pretty perfect. No major waterways passing through, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And of course, you can't really get cut off so much in Stockholm. So it's been great. I've had some good friends there, never done me any wrong. So yeah, I love it.
And so school for you would have been, at the primary level, would have been where?
It was at St. Mary's Primary, SNB.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And how was that?
What can I say? Those years from like 5 to 11 years old, I remember too much.
Yes.
But I just know it was a good experience. I never had any hiccups. I find the instruction was great. I had some great teachers over the years, Susan also, of course, Mr. Charles, Albert Tyson.
Is that the famous Sir Charles? When you say
No.
Mr. Charles? Or?
No, that's Diane Charles.
Okay.
He came in a bit later. Also, Albert Tyson, one of the greatest teachers in my opinion to have ever taught in Dominica. And that was really, I think, in grade 6 of St. Mary's Primary School, what really sparked my thirst for knowledge, because the other game will be played in grade 6 Red, which was, sort of like the honors class that I was expected to do the best among the grade 6s, so it was a bit like that. The other game we used to play called General Knowledge, where we'd line us up, around the classroom. You'd have a head, you'd have a tail, you'd go around asking questions about any topic, not just what's focused on the syllabus, but this and this, and that really, if you answer right, of course you stay here. If you answer wrong, you go to the tail. So you got that kind of competitive spirit. That really sparked my, I think, thirst for knowledge, realizing that it's not just about the books and what's in it and passing the grade 6 national assessment or common entrance as it was back then. I think that was a big turning point in my, academic life. So St. Mary's Primary, it was great.
Good experience.
And I met a lot of friends there that I still have to this day at grade 6. And even from grade K to grade 6, a lot of them I would have gone through college with as well, high school later on. Yeah, we'll come to that class later, that famous class.
Okay. And so you would have sat the common entrance examinations as it was back then. And I would presume you emerged with a scholarship?
Yeah, I did. And after that, the whole process of that, I didn't expect to do as well as I did, because, grade 6 national assessment, the whole studying thing, up to that point, I was really a studying person. I don't think I really read, at home. So that whole difference between, hey, this counts a bit more. You have to get into the studying vibes and whatnot. And I just remember one of the nights before coming into I was going through the social studies book and I was like, well, what studying? Why am I doing this? I can't remember what I did after then. In the end, I emerged for a scholarship. I think it was one of 12 or 13 to finish with 4 A's. I think I finished seventh overall in the island. And SMP did quite well in that year. I was the third.
Scholarship?
Yeah, the third in the school. Of course, we had the island scholar.
Oh, you did that year?
We had the island scholar, Cornell John Baptist, who I later on went through high school with. We also had second, Denzel Laura, and then was me in third. We had a picture, after that. And
did you make the newspaper?
I don't know. I didn't read it back then. I didn't follow the news back then. I hope. I don't remember being interviewed though.
And even without studying as hard as you probably should have studied, you emerged with number 7.
Yeah, number 7.
Across the island. So imagine, you could have been the island scholar.
Yeah, if I actually knew what to study. But I would say that our bunch in grade 6 read in that year. That was a really, really very, very impressive bunch of youths.
Do you remember
Do I remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I could probably name, well, not all of them, but the core that would have stayed with us through high school as well. I think there are some good, well-known names. Of course, Sheldon Alfred Shelley.
Yes.
Was here a few months back. Kieran Francis.
On to Harvard.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
I mean, to be expected.
Yes.
That's 206.
Yes.
Kieran Francis, Cameron John Baptist. So this was on his manager John Baptist. Devon Laura. All of those. Mitchell Bertrand, Darren Blah. I mean, everybody there. Kyle Thomas as well. It's a really impressive bunch, if I may say so myself.
Well, it appears so.
It appears to be.
It appears so. Do you remember who your class teacher was?
Class teacher, I remember we had, Albert Tyson was the one in charge of 6th grade. We also had Diane Charles and, of course, Matthew Pascal, if I'm not mistaken, who should still be teaching there. Okay. So it was a good set of people overseeing grade 6 in that time there at SMP. And we had the principal, Mrs. Matthew, and before that was Brother Philogen, who was during the earlier years of our stay there in SMP.
Okay. All right. So then, with that scholarship, I would presume took you to St. Mary's Academy.
Naturally.
Yes. A natural progression. Yes.
Just down the pathway there.
To St. Mary's Academy. Yes.
And of course, that's where my father went also. It wasn't really I had no second thought. I just knew, I would go to SMP. I don't know whether there's another high school, St. Mary's Academy. It's a good school, so naturally. So I was glad I got accepted in, and I just took it from there. In fact, in the first year or so, I applied for a scholarship from the National Cooperative Credit Union. I also got through as one of those, just to get the extra aid in.
But can you do that? If you're a scholar, you're a government scholar,
right?
Can you still get the?
You see, there was a separation. There's a needs-based scholarship and also a merit-based. So I got from the merit of it. That was in first form.
And clearly, you did not disappoint them.
I hope not. I didn't talk to them much, but I hope they know I was thankful for it.
You were thankful.
Yes.
And I suspect that helped significantly because you would have had the government scholarship, which would give what? Because I wasn't a scholar, I was a bursar.
I'm not sure the exact monetary value, but maybe about $700 in books and so on. To cover school fees also. But it wasn't comprehensive.
Okay.
Comprehensive. There will still be some costs, especially to seeing that SMA is a private school.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect.
And that's where the NCCU came in.
Yes.
So it's kind of balanced it off.
Yeah.
And you were okay.
I think so. I didn't ask my parents, but
all you knew is you had your books, you had your uniforms, you had food to go to school.
Yeah.
All right, and that was what mattered.
Yeah, $1 a day.
$1 a day?
Yeah.
What could $1 get you?
Well, enough for
That wasn't too long ago, Sharon.
Well, okay, it would get you a pizza.
Really?
or 4 popcorn, or 2 donuts.
Really? Really?
Yeah, I didn't eat much, and thankfully my parents had vehicles as well, so I didn't really need bus money per se. So
Okay.
it would suffice.
What's for your snack?
Yeah, snack, and then
He said
was really
for,
that
he said
hungry.
for popcorn. You
For
remember?
pop- yeah.
You know they would make popcorn and put it in this little in the same
Ice
bag
pop,
you put
yeah,
the ice
ice
pop
pop,
bags,
yeah.
and you'd be able to buy that. So would you really buy 4 popcorns?
I mean,
That was like air. That wouldn't do anything for you.
I mean, what was recess? I ate a good breakfast going to school, so about 2 hours later, I was already that hungry.
Okay.
I was more interested in the 20 or 15 minutes of freedom.
I
at the
see.
time, yeah.
Okay.
And you know, of course, when you have friends and so on, break this.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. All right, let's talk about those days at St. Mary's Academy that you seemed in the end to have turned out to be one of the successful students in terms of your academic qualifications and achievements and the awards that you received, which we'll talk about in a bit. But let us talk about the experience at St. Mary's Academy.
Yes, St. Mary's Academy. It was. What can I say? It was good. It was. You know, I did my schoolwork.
What subjects did you do at school?
Well, at the start, we started with everything. I think everybody starts with all the subjects, me about 11 or 12, including religion, for first form and second form. Then in third form, you know, there's like a fork in the road. Like you choose your path, business subjects or science subjects. I chose sciences.
You were sciences.
Why did I choose science?
Yes.
Because why?
Did you already know by then what you wanted to be?
I knew by then what
So I
wanted
guess
to
that's
be.
why you chose sciences.
Yeah, like I didn't know what I wanted to be.
You didn't know
I
then?
had no idea. I had no idea. I just knew I was in school. I was doing well, and once you're doing well, those students normally do sciences. That's what I knew back then. Be it right or wrong.
Yes, they would give the impression that the smarter students did sciences and those who were not so smart did business. Yes.
Yeah, and even then, when you did science subjects, you could also do business as well.
Oh.
Yeah,
Because you were smarter.
Well, that's what the trend was, that once you do sciences, you could also do business on your side, because if you did business, you'd have a tougher pathway to do sciences on the side, because you'd have to catch up with labs and so on.
Stage viewing.
Naturally. Yeah, so I chose sciences, and I just found it more interesting also.
Okay. And sciences in this case at St. Mary's Academy would be chemistry, biology,
And
physics.
Yes.
Okay.
And also we had to choose another elective subject. I chose agricultural science because, why? No, you didn't choose at that time. You chose in 4th form.
Okay.
But I went on to choose agricultural science in 4th form because by that time we had some farmland, and I didn't want to choose IT because I thought I was all right in, you know, computer vibes already.
Okay.
So it'd be a bit redundant. I didn't want to do woodwork because my father's also a pretty handy carpenter, so that'd be a bit redundant.
Again, yes.
And geography, I didn't really like that because in 3rd form it wasn't really very interesting and engaging. So I chose agricultural science.
Okay.
Never regretted that.
So did you go on to use that agricultural science? Because you said you had some land and so on.
Well, not in
Did
practice.
you do a little farming?
A little. Not as much as I would have liked, but
Okay.
you know, things came up. I did a lot of subjects back then, and you know, even up to this point, I've been very, very, you know, engaged in either work or school.
Yes.
It's always been a constant, you know, battle with time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I
Oh, tell me about that.
when I get a chance to, you know, be out there in the field, especially me not. I mean, I've seemed a bit frustrated sometimes because I wanted to, you know, get back home and on the computer doing what I was doing. But it's a good change up, you know, to be out there in the field and get your hands dirty and get sick in the natural air of the heights.
What about sports? Did you engage in any sports while at St. Mary's Academy?
Yes, in fact, just after leaving SNP, I joined the cricket academy, grassroots cricket academy, run by Sharon Gregoire. That was really my first taste of, you know, organized sport, and I stayed with that throughout my years. I don't think I put in as much time as I would have liked reflecting on it, but it was a very good learning experience. You know, building character as well. in third form, I joined the SMA under 15 cricket team. We won the championship that year at the Botanic Gardens. Then I went on to play under 20 cricket. The first year I wasn't that utilized, that much utilized. You know, I was lower on the order.
Yes,
And
yes.
sometimes the auxiliary scorer.
Oh my God.
Under Jelani Robinson. That year we went to the finals against the state quadra, we lost. The next year I was the opening batsman. Again through perseverance, hard work, and just showing up to practice on time, looking solid, looking assured, and you know, you fake it till you make it. So I opened batting that year. I was in fifth form, or 20 level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really my only engagement in sports. And again, you needed hours to graduate. Also, 100 hours during your 5 years. So you know Machiavellian in me, the prudent in me tell me that hey, cricket
is one of the ways.
Hours,
yes.
8 hours out of the day, so that would add up. So
you worked it out, and you worked out well.
Yeah, I worked out well.
I'm sure you probably did more than the 100 hours anyway.
Well, if you count the cricket hours accurately, I'm sure I did.
You sure you did?
But if I didn't, they give me the benefit of the doubt. Because I was a good boy.
Okay, and so cricket it was. You said your father was a basketballer, so you didn't trend in that direction at all.
And looking back at it again, I spent 5 years, walking across a basketball court at the St. Mary's Academy. 5 years of that.
Every day.
Every day, and I never played basketball on it.
Not once.
Not once. And it's only after leaving high school that I started playing basketball.
Do you have any skills?
Do I have?
Yes.
Well, you can ask Delvin Esprit. He calls me a knockdown shooter. He puts me and tells me shoot the ball with.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means, Sharon. What is a knockdown shooter? What does that mean?
He expects me to put the ball up and he expects me to score. He sees that as a skill. I don't know how or why.
Do you do though?
I mean,
most times
at a decent clip, at a decent rate.
What's your rate?
Not exceptional, but it's a small sample size. It's a small sample size.
Are you only playing in the business league?
Well, that's where I got most of my experience, and I really played organized basketball.
Okay.
Obviously not at the school level, but I think half of my experience came from there. The other half in first division, playing for Maggie's team, 767 Sports Club.
Yes, Maggie's doing some great work. I know he's out of Dominica now.
Yes.
Working in the interest of Dominica as well.
Yes.
I think he's based in St. Lucia.
Yes, he's been based in St. Lucia after Marion. We have a good partnership.
Good.
Years, yeah.
Now, at the end of it all, Sharon, how would you conclude your 5 years at St. Mary's Academy? And I'm saying here, I'm seeing that you left with quite a few awards. For a moment there, I thought you left with all the awards, but you told me it was half. That's quite an achievement, what I'm seeing here. So in 2012, you graduated from St. Mary's Academy, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the awards.
That I can remember.
That you can remember.
Yeah.
Because that was what? As recent as how many years ago?
6
years ago. Because you're pretty young. You will probably tell them how old you are later. No, because I think you're mature. You're mature for 23.
Yeah.
You're quite
23 and about 30 days.
23 and about 30 days.
40 days, yeah.
And about 4. So 24. 23 and you just turned 23.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, award for excellence in agricultural science. So when you get that award, what does that mean?
It means I was doing my work and submitting things on time and applying myself.
Does it mean you were the top student in the subject?
Yes.
For the year?
Alongside Kyle Thomas, because I think it had 2.
Also, it was a shared award.
Well, they gave 2 students that awards, yes. So myself and Kyle Thomas, who was listening right now, that same, I think, famous 206 group there.
Then you had, you got the awards for 2 of your science subjects.
Yes. Chemistry and biology, if not mistaken.
Yes. Loan awards?
No,
shared again?
I think they were shared.
So
Two of
most
them.
of the awards were 2?
Yeah, excellence awards were 2.
Okay.
I think, yes.
All right. And then something that I'm terrible at, you got the award for excellence in mathematics.
Yes, and I think
Jesus, sure.
for most of my life, that's what I was, best in.
Really?
Mathematics, yeah.
It's a pity you're leaving. I would have made use of your abilities. And then in the foreign subjects, really?
Naturally, I mean...
Who tops in foreign subjects? French and Spanish?
Well, first of all, I think we had the best French teacher ever in Miss Ruth Paul at the St. Mary's Academy. It wasn't just, passing for CXC that you just gave us the stuff. It was, taking it further, building a real familiarity with the language, being fluent enough in it, that you can converse, not just focusing on the syllabus. So that was a big thing, not just to, be in the French class, but that was one of the most engaging classes in St. Mary's Academy. Spanish as well, but doing well in the foreign languages, it's just about applying yourself in the same way, having an open mind to different concepts. Because again, it's elementary French and elementary Spanish. It's nothing too difficult once you...
I liked neither when I was in school, I'm sorry.
Well, I like them because they were easy.
They were easy for you?
I mean, foreign languages.
Have you built on any of them in terms of extending your knowledge and your ability to communicate in those languages?
Well, I think that's one of the regrets in the past 5 or so years, that I really followed up on it as much, to build a real grasp on it, that I would be fluent enough in it. But the elementary stuff has stayed with me.
Okay.
I mean, even as recently, obviously, as a couple months ago in Argentina, where I handled myself pretty well. I didn't need any help getting around.
So you can hold a basic conversation.
Yes, I mean...
in those 2 languages.
I mean, arriving in Buenos Aires, I had chatted with the taxi driver all the way to the hotel. Leaving from it, I had chatted with the other taxi driver on the way to the airport, talking about the experience and whatnot.
Okay, give us a basic something in one.
No.
Look at him being a coward tonight. You can at least say good night.
Buenas noches.
Okay. Well, is it buenas good morning? Or buenos is not night?
Buenos dias. Yes.
Buenos dias.
Yes,
Okay, it's good day.
Yes.
And buenas
noches.
noches.
Good night.
Is good night. Okay, well, you didn't do too badly. And then earlier on, we spoke about those best conduct and academic excellence awards that you got over the years while in school.
Right.
What were what was the criteria, for example, for best conduct?
Well,
if you recall.
Well, you can ask them. I never really inquired about that, what it takes to win that one, because I never really set my mind on winning any of those awards. It was myself, I guess. I didn't get too many demerits. So, keeping me in the running for best conduct. The only demerits I got was for being late during that time. So I think in the first 4 years, I never really got any demerits. In the first 4 years of SMA, outside of being, late past 8 o'clock coming in. So that was it. I mean, academic excellence, I think it was for the best average at the end of the school year, and you'll be recognized at the graduation ceremony. So I think I was always there and thereabouts, near the top of the class, because again, it cannot be overstated. That was a really, really smart class. I see us going very far in Dominican.
In terms of your maths and your ability to be good at it, I see that you also went on to win a math power contest in 2011. Take us back to that a bit.
2011, I think it was the NBD Math Power Contest. Looking back at it, it was probably one of the bigger achievements, well, the biggest outside of school.
At that time?
At that time.
Because you've moved on to bigger things.
That's what I meant to. Yeah, it was alongside, was it Dennis or Denzel guy? Anyway,
one of the guys.
Yeah, one of the guys.
They're also quite brilliant. So.
Yeah, so we took part in the upper secondary category. We got through the preliminary rounds, against some of the other schools, answering math questions, not just within the syllabus, but being quick on your feet, knowing the concepts and so on. Then we got to the finals on the stage at Arawak, and yeah, we just did what we did best, do maths quickly and so on time. And I remember coming on to the last question. It was between us and Portsmouth Secondary School for the second spot, because I think Orion won it that year, and I came in the bonus round and knocked it out of the park.
Oh.
It was something like, what's the square root of 87 to the nearest whole number, rounded off, and answered that.
Oh, whatever.
Even remembering that, okay, it stuck with me, that the same question. And
So how did you work that out?
well, what's the square root of 81? 9. Because 64 is for 8, 81 is for 9, and 100 is for 10. So if it's 87, it would tend to be closer to 9 when you round off to the nearest whole number.
Right.
So I looked around, I was like, really? They didn't answer it? So I put up my hand and I answered. I took my time.
And that was just, it was just that easy for you?
Yeah, it was easy. They probably didn't understand
the question.
The wording as far as, because I thought it was a pretty easy answer. And since that time, you can even ask them, my classmates, they started calling me Jack.
Jack.
Because they couldn't imagine somebody doing that so quick, like I always knew, all knowing.
Oh my goodness, I'm quite impressed with you, Sharon. So at the end of this school, the school period, you seem to, high school that is,
yeah.
You seem to have graduated.
I almost didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think if you look at it closely, you can see sciences, Spanish, French, math, agriculture, science. Where's English?
What happened?
I couldn't write.
You could not write?
No, I couldn't write at all.
So you were bad at English?
No, it was almost non-existent. I couldn't write.
No way. That's hard to believe.
I could do the grammar and so on, all the structure and all that, even some summaries, but in terms of writing, out of creativity, even explaining, getting your thoughts together and putting it into that 400 or 300 words thing, that was just foreign to me.
So writing compositions and essays, and so...
No, I couldn't. Third form, final exam, you had to do, I think, a narrative or something. I just didn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Oh my God, that's shocking.
Yeah.
So how did you get around that? Didn't you need it to graduate?
Yeah, I needed to pass English to graduate from SMA. I think I passed English for 53.
How did you
I couldn't write.
How did you survive?
So just by this bit, I think I did half of the summary bit, and of course the multiple choice whatnots and that, so it got me through. But the writing, the narrative, or the expository, or all that, I just couldn't write at all, and that tool that warned me during those last 2 years, because that's when you get more into that part of it, different writing techniques and all of that. So that was a struggle, and that led to discouragement in other aspects too, because I can't write. What's the point?
I get you. But did you attack it again after that?
Well, after...
Where you would have had the
college.
Exam.
Yeah, the high school exam, the mock exam, I would have passed it by 53.
Right, but then the actual exam?
The CXE?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I failed it.
No way, incredible.
Yeah,
you speak well.
No.
That is, I didn't see that coming. So you failed it at CXE?
Yeah, I got a 4.
Oh my, that's a little depressing.
Not a little.
Hugely depressing when you excel at everything else.
Yeah.
And one thing held you down.
Mm-hmm.
So you failed it at CXE. What was the next move? Because you needed English.
Yeah, I needed English, especially to get a scholarship for the state college. That was one of the criteria. So even having I completed 8 other subjects, 7 1.
Sorry, I laugh at you.
I did not English, so yeah, like what can I do? So then I went up to the Dominica State College, and that was another chapter.
So did you ever sit the exam again?
Yeah, I started 6 months later.
And?
I got a 2.
Okay.
I still didn't write the narrative.
Oh my, so you left that part out?
I couldn't write. Even at 6 months later. I did the expository. I wrote something about West Indies cricket. They asked about insularity in West Indies cricket.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of in my ballpark. No pun
Okay.
intended.
Yes. So that worked. Well, it's a good thing they asked that question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would have been able to handle anything else. Oh my goodness, that one was a bit incredible for me to believe, Sharon. But you did anyway. You passed it.
Yeah.
And then you got into state college when the following.
I got into state college at the same time. You didn't need English to get into the state college.
Okay.
You had to do a remedial English class.
Well, I don't know why would do. I don't know. I couldn't imagine how they would turn down somebody with 7 1s and a 2 just because they didn't have English at CXC.
Yeah. So the first class I had at the state college was remedial English.
Okay.
That's about 8:15 on the first day, August 29th or something. And it was English 101 or 111 or something with Miss Nadine Riviere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like her. She's a good teacher.
Me too.
Yes. Did she help you?
Evidently. She was also the advisor for the Dominica State College Journalism Club, which came into play a couple years after.
Wow. Sharon, before we continue, we should take a break. But before we continue, what is the message though, at the end of it all, when you for example, those who may still be in school, in high school, and maybe even struggling with English, what is the message?
Well, looking around, I find a lot more people struggle with mathematics than English. And that's, I think, been around for a number of years. Just to everybody, if you have a weakness, don't give up, keep working on it, because it will, or it should, not just should, it will come in handy in the end. It's secondary school level math, secondary school level English. It's not beyond your capability. It's about applying yourself and meeting the standards, and not just doing it to pass, but taking on things that will help you later on in life, because education is meant to be practical. So not just focus on passing the exam, but taking something on with you too, because that's something you can build on. So my message to the youngsters out there is don't give up. If you have a weakness, keep working on it, and it will turn out in the end once you put in that work, because it's not above you. Mm-hmm. You're quite apt.
I hear you talking a lot about concepts, understanding the concepts, getting the concepts. Right. Is that what worked for you through your studies?
Well, studies, I don't really like the term studies, because the whole thing about going through the school and looking at the exam and so on and past papers and trying to get all the marks and getting, along the curve so you can get a 1 instead of a that and a distinction and all that. And going through past papers just, like it's some sort of a sport or competition or things. I never really liked that.
No.
That part of it. I don't think I ever went through too many past papers, because that was against my whole view of education. Why have it like that? When I was in chemistry class, physics class, all those classes there, I tried to get the concept, so that I can enjoy it. Because when you look at school and all these things there, if you don't see it as worth putting in your mind, what's the point if you just have to put it there to put it back on an exam? It doesn't really stay with you, and it doesn't really engage you to give your all to it. So understanding the concept, taking it in as being a big part of my approach to the whole thing, because when you do that again, and you listen in class and you take it in and adapt it to what you already have, it makes studying easier if you even need to study, because it's part of you.
Makes a lot of sense. Sharon Burton. 9:09 is the time in our studios. We are going to continue our conversation with him in just a while. Keep it locked. We're coming right back. This is the In the Spotlight radio show right here on Q95 FM radio.
in the spotlight on Q95 FM radio.
Shocking.
Everyone
We're
is
still on though.
8 p.m.
Remember, we're still live on Facebook.
Featuring people from all walks of Dominican life. Spotlighting pictures,
Instructions.
dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of people in politics, religion,
Money's done listening or something, so I never get a
culture, the media,
because
and
actually
more.
getting to call me when I
Getting
never
to
got
know
on
our
before
farmers,
just
our public servants,
it's even
youth,
just
and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to the stories, no
well,
limitations,
it's not you ready.
no restrictions,
I mean, that's what
no
I do.
holds barred. In the spotlight,
So I feel
spotlight interesting topics and relevant situations.
First
Don't
default
miss In the Spotlight on
choose line
Q95
1
FM radio
with $20
every Monday night
number,
from
the
8
PIN you
p.m.
ask before
In
paying,
the
math,
Spotlight.
none of the sign, press up, should we go straight?
One-on-one with interesting personalities, educational and informative topics and issues, intriguing and entertaining, a must listen to. In the Spotlight, Monday nights from 8 p.m. on Q95.
Nine 11 is the time here in our studios. Our guest in the spotlight tonight is Sharon Burton. And we'll be hearing from a few persons who have helped this young man along his journey. And we'll do that a little later on in the program. But we return to our conversation with Sharon or Ja or Rome, whichever one that you want to talk to him. Call him, is your choice. So armed with 9 subjects from secondary school, you are at the Dominica State College. By then, Sharon, were you aware by then of what Sharon wanted to do?
No idea.
Still no idea.
No. Coming to college, I just knew that I wanted to, or I should, continue doing the sciences of it, and A-levels was the next thing on the agenda. Once you do well in high school, the next step would be to pursue A-levels again, so that, because that's how it's done. That's what I knew back then. That's the path.
That's the system. That's how it works.
That's how it is, especially if you want to compete for the Island Scholar at that level too. So that's what I did. I pursued 3 majors: math, chemistry, and biology, so that I would also be
Not
able to
shocking.
yeah, so that I'd also be able to do A-levels in them as well, because that's how it's done. And again, it was really taxing. I mean, people, college students, they have enough on their plate with 1 major to follow us for free, plus the A-levels. It was like a full-time job, because you'd have to do the core courses for 3 majors as well as all the electives. And at the end of the day, what time was it? 5:30, 6 o'clock, sometimes 4:30. You'd have to do 2 hours of A-level class after that, and get home to do all the work for your major and all of that. So it was very taxing time-wise, but living in Stock Farm, you understand.
It was easy.
It was less difficult.
Yes, well, easier to get to school and get back to home because of the close proximity with home and school. So you went through, and I'm sure you did well there as well.
Well, I almost didn't do too well.
What's going on with you? What happened?
About four semesters in, I sort of burned out a bit, both emotionally and social, because all the workload as well, and not knowing what you want to be and all that. So I stayed out of school for a while. The end of that semester there, I didn't sit my A-levels, so I didn't get graded in any of them. I stayed away from the college courses, so Most of them would have show up as F and so on. At that time, because I just stood away because I didn't really have any escape or whatnot.
What did your parents say?
It was only about a month after when they saw the registrar called them and saw that there was a problem because they saw I was doing very well, and then all of a sudden you see F's and all that. So things worked out in the end. I got them changed to withdrawn based on the circumstances, and I was able to start afresh in the next semester. Again, yeah.
Oh wow.
So I got a reboot.
Yes, you needed that reboot.
Yeah.
But was it a situation where you just needed to withdraw from it all? Were you tired? Were you exhausted? What was going on with you, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, again, not knowing what you want to be, not having a real end goal to it all besides doing well for what? And without that, your motivation for it sort of wanes, and with all the workload things coming up, and A-level is no joke. Again, a lot of college students see the major, they're happy to get out of that 2 years, that 2.5 years, that 3 years of college, out of the struggle, but looking back at it, comparing the A-levels to the majors, they're even doing 3 majors at a time. The State College Associate degree is basically cake, it's pap, it's butter, nothing, not down in it like that, but compared to A-levels, the amount of that's asked of you, even the major programs at the State College, they are much less difficult and taxing. I mean, you have to put in the work for the associate degree, but compared to the A-level and the time required, the little time you have to make those decisions on the A-level paper and the excellence that required, it's a big step up for that. Again, and the labs as well, the practicals. So that was a real tough period. I needed that reboot, and during that summer, I eventually found it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. You know, what then gave you that motivation to return to school and to continue your education?
Well, it might seem a bit trivial, but during that summer, my cousin, my favorite cousin, Gavin Christopher, is a performer now. Better than Giovanni. Yeah, my favorite cousin. He's now on the cruise ships having a fine time and doing his work there. But during that summer, one of my classmates too, Kyle Brisbane, he came down for the summer. So I wanted, to go out and enjoy the nature and so on, whether it be fishing. We started that because we had a run, want to get away from the usual party and all that, and the drinking and all that. So I had that in me from the upbringing my father gave me, and I went out to swim, to fish, even spearfish later on. So we went to different spots, we fished, we eventually started spearfishing. We had the goggles and we saw a little stingray in the water under the cliff there, and we made a spear and stabbed it, and eventually cooked it because my cousin cooks also. So that led to other things, and we started spearfishing and eventually got good in that. And long story short, that experience of freediving, I don't think too many people know about it, but freediving, diving on your own breath and go into amazing depths, it's dark and blue on your own breath, and the air pressure, the water pressure makes your ears go in and start throbbing.
Somewhat, yes.
And you have to know how to equalize the pressure to keep, your eardrums from bursting. And going down that deep on your own breath for minutes at a time, shooting.
You were able to do that?
Eventually, practice, of course, fitness as well. And again, it's not easy. The deeper you go, the colder it gets. And you're fishing for these venomous fish, the lionfish, the barracudas out there, whatever is out there in the deep blue, and sometimes it's only one or two of you. All of that summer and later on, it really changed my approach to life. I became more fearless, with everything in perspective. And to freedive, you have to know how to relax your body, not just your body, your mind, for all of those things. So I think that stayed with me. It sounds trivial, but that experience, knowing how to, you know, keep composed, focused, calm, relax, that helped me later on and really gave me
That was
a
your
confidence in
therapy.
Yeah. Without that, I think I would be very different from where I am now in terms of composure and, you know, being able to handle yourself under pressure, no pun intended.
Under pressure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. But if it was able to assist you in sort of regaining your composure, regaining yourself,
Well, not regaining it, gaining it first of all.
gaining it
I never had
altogether.
that. I never had that. Yeah.
And so you went back to school that year, September of that year. You went back to school.
Yes.
Okay, and then you made it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just that. That summer they added 2 new programs: the political science program and the mass communication program. Myself, over the past year, you know, general paper involved in A levels, I started to get more involved in current events, world events, all of that, history and so on. So that were the things. And when I had the political science program, I took on to that because I was interested in that, the political science and processes and everything involved in it. So I started doing the courses. I eventually chose it, or added to it as a major. I dropped chemistry, you know, going so far in that and dropping at the final. That was a bit of a bummer, but I added that, and the next year I added the mass communication program because I thought, why not? I mean,
But you were
it's a
sciences.
yeah, but why not branch out? I was interested in news, and I took on a class as an elective, and I saw how quote unquote easy it seemed. I knew I could handle it, so I asked, and I eventually found my way into do that 2-year program in my last year. So doing double the courses in the same period of time, as well as the internship in the next year at the Sun.
Oh, that free diving worked for you.
Yeah. So I was able to do it and did those 4 courses, those 4 core courses in each of the 2 semesters, and I eventually graduated at the end of that. Again, because I graduated the year before, 2015, from the math and the biology. So the next year I did mass comm and political science.
Oh, congratulations.
Well,
You did well,
yeah.
in spite of.
Yeah, in spite of.
So again, you know, I think this is a good example of not giving up, of being motivated, and of somewhat inspiring your own self.
Yeah, and being well-rounded.
Yeah.
If you can do it, why not? I mean, once you have the resources, again, doing another couple years at the college, it's financially taxing in its own way, but at the end of it, it's worth it, especially if you're doing well enough to make it feasible.
And so you ended your stint at the Dominica State College, and I would presume by then 2 things could be on your mind. One could be either entering the workforce,
Right.
or heading off to study.
Yeah.
Of these 2.
Well, going off to study, I think I was quite honest with myself. I never really had a real life experience. Most of my years up to then, I've been 21 years old, 20 years old. I've been in school and not much out of it. My achievements were all in school, basically. So not really having that life experience. I don't think it was a good idea to go out one time
Okay.
for university. And again, I don't really have savings.
Okay.
Because spending another couple of years in
Yeah.
college really blew my savings. So my mind was on working, you know, to at least orient myself with life and finally figure out what I want to be.
Because by then
I still didn't know.
You still didn't
Two of us were
do you know now as we speak?
I have a good idea.
Yeah,
It's
good idea.
It's build up.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So we'll talk about it in a while.
Yes.
So you wanted a job.
Yes. Naturally.
You wanted a job.
Yes.
So what was it like trying to get a job? And where did you want to work?
Where did I want to work? First of all, I just wanted a job.
You just wanted a job.
I was sort of aware of these circumstances nationally as well, especially for young people entering the workforce. It's not getting a job in your field is what, it's luck and chance. Not really. It's not really as diverse as ideal, but I knew there'd be challenges, but I applied anyway.
You applied everywhere?
Well, everywhere I knew. Well, once. Well, not literally everywhere because I wouldn't have enough paper to send the application. But obviously the public service, and ideally I wanted a job in the agricultural science area because it's practical in some ways, and I have some experience in that in terms of CXC level. So that was what really I was hoping for. In my experience at the Sun, during the last semester in college, I knew how much work it took to be part of the media, and again, writing. Although I've gotten better at it, it was still
I'm still surprised at that, and I'm still surprised you are at DBS writing sports.
Yeah.
And news.
Yeah, for 2.5 years.
Yes.
Yeah, I still saw it as really a big chore. Focusing your mind to write all of that stuff.
It's easy, a catchy opening.
Yeah, but by that time it was
and
for
you just
newspaper.
give it a bit of a body. Well, yes.
By that time for newspaper.
Radio
it was,
is different.
Yeah, radio is different.
Yes.
That's why I learned to love radio.
Yeah.
But I still saw it as a bit of a chore, and do I really want to do that for whatever length of time it is? Like, well, I'd go mad. But to write, and again, every day comes with something new on those ideas. I never saw myself as a creative person per se. So I wasn't really wanting to go into that, although I had a degree in it. But anyways, I applied everywhere. No vacancies, whatnot, and whatnot. But then I got a response from DBS and saying, sorry, no vacancies, but if you want to come and volunteer, you can show us what you have, and yeah. So I said, why not?
So that's what you did. How long did you volunteer for at DBS?
I started volunteering in July, early July, I think, so about 2 months. I was volunteering until September 1st, where I got put on training.
You were then put on training?
Yes.
Because maybe somebody saw you had some potential.
Yeah.
What did you do though during the 2 months that you volunteered?
Well, I basically wrote news stories, did my own interviews, put together things for the package, regional, international, just hung about every day during working hours. Did what I could, and when I was done, or when it was time to go, I left. Yeah. Okay,
so 2 months down the line, somebody comes to you. I would presume it's Cecil. Cecil was acting GM who was there at the time. And what was the conversation?
Well, the timeline. Because at some point, well, first of all, the news editor, Mr. Curtis Matthew, he mentioned it to the manager as well. He saw my writing ability and saw something to do.
Imagine that, your writing ability.
Yes, I think, I'm not sure exactly, it was like, this guy can write, or something like that. And then the manager saw a bit, and he was getting some good feedback from it. And then one week, the sports editor, Gavin Richards, he was ill for a year. I think he had to travel. So then, Mr. Joseph, he asked me to fill in for the sports, produce the sports for that week. And then Mr. Matthew was, I think, he was a bit hesitant, seeing the level of work Gavin did, and to not having there and having a newcomer coming. But they gave me the chance, and before that point, I never really saw myself doing a sports reporting. That was completely alien to me. Although I knew sports, but writing for sports, having that excitement, that sort of vibe. Again, the local sports, I wasn't really too much of a fan of local sports. So that was something I never really thought about until I was thrust into it, and I just took it from there and used what I know and build on it. And when Gavin came back, of course, learning from him under his mentorship. By that time I was on training, so it was all forward from there. Hard work and discipline. Hard
work and discipline.
Yeah.
Something that you knew from this high growing up. and something that you
maybe not in those words, but in spirit.
in spirit, right? And so, sure, out of this, quite a bit happened. Let us start talking. We have some people to make some connections with, and we just ask them to be patient. We'll be with them shortly. But let us start by understanding what happened from there in terms of those opportunities that then opened their doors to you.
From that point, in terms of building on that, for the few months I was on training from September until November, I was really understudying Gavin. It was like somewhat half and half or so on in terms of the producing, because of course Gavin was also contributing a lot to the national news, as he's an all-rounder himself. He prides himself on his work and his output and efficiency. So I was mostly doing like half of the sports and following on there where there was some event coming on the scene, trying to pick up on those points, because I was asked to understudy Gavin and really get into it. But sometime in November, our chief reporter, Miss Ivona John-Baptiste-Lugie, she was transferred
to the programming department.
Yes, so that was a big gap there in the newsroom, not having a chief reporter, and things work out that Gavin de facto, effectively, he stepped into the role of producing as much work, if not as much work as a chief reporter contributing to the national newscast, and I took a step up, basically doing the majority of the sports, and that's how it had been for the year, and up to this point after that, handling the majority of the sports content there on DBS Radio.
And then came this opportunity for someone to represent the Dominica Olympic Committee, or Dominica, at the International Olympic Committee IOC Young Reporters program, and you were selected to do that. How does this work?
Well, coming to that point, it was November of last year, obviously after Hurricane Maria. So a lot of that, changed before that. No water, electricity, internet, computer, and so on. So in November, was it November 1st or so on? It was very, very close to Independence Day. I was approached by the Dominica Olympic Committee to apply for this program because they needed an applicant. It was just a few months after Mr. Billy Doctor took over the Olympic Committee, so there was some new, energy within it, and they approached me to apply for it. I never thought I would get through because, again, I didn't have everything at hand, no internet and so on, and a lot of the work they needed, a lot of the submitted work they needed as part of the application, I didn't really have it on hand, but I worked through the next day and a half, got the photos, the examples of my sportscast, and I applied for them. Yes. At the same time, the national parade was going on. So I applied, set up the application, even though it was past the date. And one place I got the good news that I was selected among 4 in the Americas, meaning North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean, to represent the continents at the Youth Olympic Games, the IOC Young Reporters Program, up there in Buenos Aires.
Argentina.
Yes. And that was a good 10 months in the future. So already in December of 2017, I had something to look forward to, not just an opportunity, but a major challenge, because as was mentioned to me that it would be the best young reporters from across the globe coming together in one place, and here I am in Dominica reporting on the secondary school football championships, and you have people who have written for ESPN and ABC Deportes from all over the world, from the Association International, the French acronym for the Association for International Sports Journalists, EIPS, all of that there. So I knew I had to do some work in the next 10 months to, get to a certain standard that I wouldn't quote unquote embarrass myself.
Already you were not a writer.
Yeah. Really was.
But how did that make you feel though? That there it is, you just entered into this field. Yes, you have your mass comm associate's degree. You just got to DBS. A couple of months working on the sports desk, and this opportunity presents itself, and voila! Among 4 others, I think it was.
Yeah, 4 others in the Americas.
4 others in the Americas, you get selected for this. What is going through your mind?
Well, what can I say? What did they say in me? I mean, I had to write a cover letter for the application, so I guess the help I got from IUL in crafting that, kudos where it's due, because I was in 2 minds on whether to apply and I need to get a cover letter done, and I was complaining, boy, I have to write this cover letter and I'm not gonna get in anyway. But anyway, they convinced me to apply, and I guess I saw something in that, especially, I tied it into the experience after Hurricane Maria and what it would mean to be able to cover our athletes again, as well, other athletes around the world at that big stage, coming from these circumstances. I guess that's what came in, as well as the work I submitted, because I showed them a few of these podcasts I did, a lot of content that I produced, and I got in. So I just saw it as a big opportunity and work to be done before that time to represent as best I can.
So how did you prepare? What did you do? What are some of the things that you do? Other than brushing up on your Spanish?
In fact, I never did brush up, but it worked out in the end in terms of the Spanish. About a year earlier, just a few months into training at DBS, I purchased a camcorder, and a few weeks after that, a digital camera as well. I used one locally. I saw it as a good deal, so I had to take it. Even with the limited funds I had, only been paid a stipend, and my savings non-existent.
Yeah, because you're young. You know?
So making that investment for what? I'm working in the radio. Can they see the pictures over the airwaves? Are you mad? Young man, are you mad?
Yeah, that's what you said to yourself. But you knew what you had to do.
I didn't really know at that time, but it worked out. I brushed my skill up in the recording, photography, expanded my range.
What would be required of you at that in Argentina?
Well, the IOCM Reporters program tests us, it also instructs us. We'll be expected to produce material in photography, written, of course, text, social media. Of course, it's the 21st century, so that'll be a big part in producing content for social media, as well as broadcast, television broadcast setting as well, video, all of those things that are not radio.
And these were not things that you were traditionally engaged in doing?
No, I had never done any practical broadcast work outside radio broadcast in terms of television and all that, photography, text. Writing for text is a lot different from writing for radio and all that. And of course, social media, I didn't really have any social media presence before that.
You're joking.
Not even to this day. My Facebook account is Ethan Burton, because
Yeah,
my first name.
I couldn't find you.
Yeah, exactly.
Initially, until somebody tagged you in my post, and I realized, but Ethan Burton is you.
Yeah.
So
I made an Instagram account in preparation for that program. I also made a Twitter account up there a couple of days before, because that would be required too. So I never really had a social media presence before a couple of years ago.
Okay, so let's talk about getting there.
Right.
So 10 months later, you're getting ready to go. Of course, we heard it on the radio and all of that. You're getting ready to head to Argentina.
I remember a day after Tropical Storm Isaac.
Yes,
Yes,
we one of them.
Yes,
That's true.
I actually slept in DBS over that night. That was the second time, so I think it was Cook. State of emergency. I read the first newscast after the state of emergency, and then from there on I was on leave. Actually, I woke up on leave. and I did the first newscast after the state of emergency, and then I went to pack my things and then off to Argentina.
You went off to Argentina.
Yeah.
Let us talk about the Argentina experience.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Argentina experience. First of all, how long were you there for?
It was a 3-week program. I arrived on the 30th, I believe. From Dominica, I went to St. Martin, then to Panama. That was my first taste of Central America. And from then on, everything changed because you don't have the English, you have the Spanish, all the families, all the different people from South and Central America are traversing. So you had very little to no English, even on the planes and so on. It was like a big wall in terms of culture and all of that. From Panama to Argentina, I was very fortunate to sit next to a Argentinian family, and that's when I really started branching out. I conversed with them throughout that flight there, and made a second family of sorts.
Okay.
They even offered to tour me around the place.
All right. So if anything happened, you knew where you had to go to. We have someone on the line, Sharon, who is going to just interject for a short bit. And it should be the president of the Dominica Olympic Committee, or International Cricket Umpire, Mr. Billy Doctorow. Billy, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Good evening, Sharon, and good evening to listeners to QFM.
To the In the Spotlight radio show. Thank you for joining us on the program. You've been here before, and it was an absolute pleasure to have you when you were on the program here. But tonight, Billy, we have you calling to speak about this gentleman who is with us here in studios, Sharon Burton. And Sharon was selected by the Dominica Olympic Committee under your stewardship to represent Dominica at the Young Reporters program during the 2018 Youth Olympic Summer Games in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Billy, first of all, tell me, what do you think about this young man and how he emerged as the selection to head to that major event?
Well, listening to his program tonight, I am totally shocked that he could have reached that level after going through those difficult times that he had gone through in his English at school. I couldn't imagine that. That he could have made that kind of transition, but praise to him and grateful to him that he could have persevered and to overcome those difficulties and he has shown that he has really excelled. When we got the information that we could nominate someone, a young person who the age is, I think, between 18 and 24, who was proficient in written and spoken English. So from what we heard on the radio, he fitted that criteria. He sounded quite knowledgeable. He was precise and concise with his reports and so on. So we felt that when we looked around, we felt that he was probably the ideal person that we could nominate for that opportunity. Because when we took over, we always said that we were going to try to get as many young persons in different capacities, to fulfill their full potential. And he, as a young reporter on DBS, he had to fit the criteria, and he had to be on the basis of someone who performed with passion and performance and promise in his field. And we felt that he suited all the criteria. So we made contact with him, asking him to apply, and we also had to make the nomination, let the International Olympic Committee know what we thought of him and his ability as a young reporter. And we made the nomination, and we were always confident because just to mention that just a few months earlier we had also nominated Mr. Brandon Williams for the Commonwealth Games to serve on the Appellate Commission in Australia, and he also was successful. So we knew that we were preparing our nominations well, and it was really great news when we got the information that Sharon was successful. He was one of 4 reporters representing the Americas, because they had to use 4 reporters, for young reporters representing each of the continents, and he was one of those from the Americas, representing the Americas. There's someone from Barbados, from the Caribbean. So we were very, very elated about that. And he was just someone whom we identified with ability and potential. And I really want to thank the Secretary General, Phyllis Barron, and our capacity officer, Tanya Burnett, who were really instrumental in preparing and submitting the nomination. So, and we were really looking forward to when we reached up in Argentina. Unfortunately, I never ever met him in Argentina personally because of our different schedules and so on, but he was in contact with me by phone. He was in contact with our squad. He had some interviews with our squad in Argentina. So, and I met one of the coordinators, and they told me that, you know, he was one of the, from very early, they told me that he was one of the very, very impressive ones. So I knew that he was doing very well, and I wasn't surprised when I heard that he came out as the #1 reporter in Congress in the Youth Olympic Games. You know, so it just showed that our talent spotting was spot on, and he himself worked very hard in his preparation and his execution in Argentina. So we're really looking forward to great things from him. I read that he'll be leaving soon. I hope that he will be able to continue his journey in journalism, because he started doing very well, and I must say that he has even got beyond our expectations. But this is a young man that we saw, and this is the talent that we saw in him, and I really want to congratulate him on his performance in Argentina.
Billy, it is clear that the Dominican Olympic Committee has played a major role in this young man achieving, even getting to the point of being recognized as the most outstanding young reporter. It began, in this case, this achievement began with the confidence that the Dominican Olympic Committee displayed in this young man.
Yeah, our responsibility as administrators, as governance in the Dominican Olympic Committee, is to identify young talent in different areas and try and let them fulfill their full potential. When we took over from the as executive of the Dominican Olympic Committee, there were lots of changes that we had to make to ensure that the Dominican Olympic Committee was again, recognized and governed in a professional manner. And those are the kind of things that we have to do. We have to identify talent, and not only on the track or on the football field or on the basketball court or on the volleyball court. We have to look at them in all areas. And Sharon was one of the persons, when we got that opportunity, we felt that we couldn't miss it, and we had to try and get someone. And when we looked around, we thought that when we look at the criteria, we thought that Sharon fitted the bill excellently. And we are happy that he grabbed it, because it's one thing that to nominate him and give him the opportunity, but the ball was in his court, and he could have gone up there and just be a run-of-the-mill, a very average, mediocre reporter. But fortunately, he did a little extra work on his Spanish before he left. And so he actually excelled. He actually excelled there. And that's what we knew, that he had him, and knowing his parents, I know his parents very well. I knew that he had that background, he had that strength, and even he listened to the program tonight. This is the first time I've really got an in-depth knowledge of his school life, and excelling in one area and having some difficulties in English, and having the strength and the will to recognize that he was short in that, and working to overcome that problem. So we already knew that he had the strength in him, and his work on DBS was exemplary. It was very, very good, and just felt that he was the person. And we were happy that he justified our confidence in him. He justified our choice. And I say that I hope that he can just continue going from strength to strength, and I wish him all the best in the future endeavors. And just remember that whatever he does, he has an opportunity to take the road as a popular sports journalist professional, because there are big opportunities out there for him, and with his strength of character, which he has proven over the years, with his foresight, his determination, I know he's overcome. So we are looking forward to big things from him, and we are so happy that we could contribute to his development as a young person in Dominica.
All right. Any words for Billy, Sharon?
Yes, I just like to say thank you again to the Dominica Olympic Committee for showing that faith in me in my short time before then reporting in sports to nominate me for that program. Not only suggesting that I do it, but also encouraging me to get through as well. And even the treatment before it, the contact we had before, making sure everything was all right in terms of my representing us in that program. So again, thank you to the Dominica Olympic Committee, and continue striving to create opportunities and help young people make use of the opportunities they have further on. You mentioned that I could have taken it and just been like a mediocre or less than ideal reporter, but that was one of the things that was pointed out, that getting a chance to represent national was not just about taking a trip or just going overseas and not being ready to compete, and just showing up there. So I took it very seriously, making sure that I was ready not just to represent, but to represent well. And I thank God I did that.
All right, Billy, thank you so much.
Okay, Brian, I just want to just wish Sharon all the best, and just keep reaching for the stars, and we are very, very proud of your achievements so far, and we'll always be there to continue supporting you in your endeavors. And all the best, and keep working hard, and keep focused. As a young man, keep focused. I know the temptation levels out there as young people to take the wrong path, but I know that from the background that you have, you can go on to keep on the straight and narrow, and do all of us in the Olympic Committee and the Dominica proud. All the best.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, Billy, and we will be making connections with one of the other persons that have influenced Sharon in one way or the other. So while we do that, Sharon, let us talk about the fact that you emerged as the most outstanding young reporter, and the award that you received as a result in Argentina.
Well, to speak about the award, you have to speak about the whole process through it. I mean, at the end of the 3 weeks, or 2.5 weeks before that time there, my mind was never really on that. It actually came as a big shock, and we'll come to that. I mean, looking back at it, I probably didn't know at the time there, but traveling that far to a foreign place, foreign language, different culture, the biggest stage I've ever been at, and so much being expected, not just from the program itself, but also I was sending back over for DBS during that time. I mean, I probably didn't know it at the time, but I was scared as hell.
You were?
Yeah, I was probably just too tired to notice it. I mean, because it was a long flight. Again, it was the first time I was traveling alone, without family, traveling as far to South America, and in a place so alien in terms of the cold, the lack of humidity, again the language barrier, not much of a barrier because I stepped over it to an extent. But it was really intimidating looking back at it, and if I had approached it differently, I don't think it would have turned out well at all. I mean, arriving there in the early hours of the morning, I was the second of the international, people to arrive there. The first was a Sri Lanka, and 19-year-old Sri Lankan. So I came in there, he was the only one there. As the first time I'd seen a Sri Lankan in there.
I'm going to interrupt you a bit again because we have the folks who we need to call in, and I do not want to keep them. Oh, I think you may have hung up, but okay, continue, and we'll wait for that next call.
So I was the second person to arrive there. Also, they were free Argentinians, so they wouldn't have to travel as far. So really, after that point, arriving earlier in the morning, I didn't, I guess, an hour sleep, did I? I just showered and lied down, and what the hell did I get into? And then people from all over the world started pouring in because, again, it was putting names to faces because we had been in a WhatsApp group 4 months beforehand. So they'll say, that's you, and you're from this and that. And
hello, yes.
Yeah, people from all over coming in. And then my roommate came in from Barbados.
So your roommate was from the Caribbean?
Yeah, they grouped us. So they suggested they grouped us in terms of, cultural similarity.
Made sense.
Yeah, made sense.
But pause again. Let us go to the telephone. I think on the line we should have Gavin Richards, who is the president of the Media Association here in Dominica, but he's also the sports editor at DBS Radio, the person whom you work very closely with. Do we have that right, Gavin?
Yes, that's right.
Gavin J. Richards.
Good evening to you. Good evening to Cheryl, Oliver, and
Thank you so much, Gavin. Thank you for joining us as well. So, Gavin, tell me about this young man and what you thought of him when he first came to work alongside you at DBS Radio.
Well, I heard him already, morning and growing, but, Cheryl, I would kind of describe, Cheryl Burton and the contribution that he has made to DBS Radio. I mean, the first time I saw him, he came in and I was like, okay, who's this young guy coming in? He was a bit shy. I could sense that he was a very intelligent guy, but he was extremely shy, and he was, a guy who kept to himself. He took a while before he broke in, and, he felt comfortable around the rest of us. But then when he did, he just really took off from there. I remember the first few days he came to work and I would be grilling him, I'd say, sure, what do you have, as part of your plans for the day? What do you have? And then he would run on the internet and say, what did you have as part of the plan? And then he got the idea, right? He found out right there that I meant you have to be more on the ground. The sports reporting and news reporting will be more than just sitting down and waiting for calls and that kind of stuff. And that's what he did. And right now he's taking the sports to, I can feel even a different level at DBS Radio with the coverage that he's been able to give it, the passion that he has for sports reporting, I remember when Cheryl started out, he was still volunteering, and I would be having the late nights at work, like I would be covering basketball games, big hours all over the place. And when I'm thinking that Cheryl will be looking to go home, to rest, Cheryl will be wanting to follow, and following us to the games, even assisting in the commentary. Sometimes he wasn't ready for the commentary, but he was good at the stats and stuff along those lines. And he just always found a way to get himself involved with things at DBS Radio. I must say, it paid off for him in the end, and you look at where he found himself today. He's the best young reporter in the entire world. So kudos once again to your show.
Yes, thank you, Gavin J. Richards. Again, I think a big part of it is mentorship as well. Not just telling you, hey, do this, do that. This is what it is. I mean, it's an example. Some people might not take it as much. I guess a lot of young people would not take it in that way. But thankfully, I was able to adapt from the example that I saw before me, not just in you, but also Curtis Matthew on the level of professionalism, the work he puts in to his craft. So all of that, I think, is a big part in any young person reaching greater than where they were before. The mentorship they get from the more experienced and knowledgeable heads. It's not just about copying, but adapting to your own personal, touch.
Mm-hmm. Gavin, is his departure creating a void in your sports department?
Mr. Valhat.
It felt right away. I can tell the nation that had it not been for Burton, I would not have been able to go to Australia this year to come on Games. Because I had to go for an entire month. I'm sure was not in a position where he was able to handle the sport. There was no way that DBS really would have sent me off for an entire month, to cover the Commonwealth Games, like everything else would have suffered. Honestly, Showroom has taken the sport ever since Hurricane Maria. He mentioned it earlier why I was more or less pushed into the youth department. He has been more or less handling the sport on his own. I've had little input really with Showroom in terms of telling him what to do. That's how quickly he has evolved and grown. And sometimes I even listen to the sport and I'm surprised sometimes to what the content of it sometimes to the people who he's able to get for interviews. He's been extremely good use of the technology, the use of voice notes in getting athletes wherever they are around the world. Even things like athletes who are off on scholarships, he's been able to follow them, in the United States and all over. And trust me, Sharon is going to be missed tremendously. We're already missing his presence at DBS. Up to last week, we were joking about it. Tuesday was his last day at work, so we had a little joke, and he said, it's possible that I might see him on Friday. So then he said, when I see him, please do not tell him anything. It's over. That's the kind of guy he was, when Jerome came in, he wasn't that jovial guy, to himself, and towards the end, Jerome was really started to crack the jokes on him. It was, like a real pleasure, coming to work, and I could have Jerome there as my buddy, and, he would be there, and we'd be cracking all the jokes together. It's real fun. And even now that he's left and he's on quote-unquote vacation, or he's on his way now, to study, Sharon was at the football game on Friday with a camera recording. He was at Stockholm yesterday again with a camera recording. I'm like, Sharon, but you have done it way from work. You can break and you can relax, and that's the passion that he has for sport. And that's something that I wish a lot of the other young people in the field of not just sports journalism, but journalism all over would have. Sharon didn't see work as an 8 to 4. He saw it as, I have to get it done. And there are some nights he would be inside of DBS at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to ensure that he would get things done. And nothing it was never a problem for him. He took pride with his work, and trust me, that's something that we will never forget at DBS Radio.
Mm-hmm. You sound like you're very proud of him, Gavin.
Yes, I'm very sad, because to be honest, you're supposed to be in August, and because of some, I think the tie-up with Hurricane Maria and whatnot, you didn't get to go, and then in my heart I was like, yes.
Unintentionally selfish.
But then when it was confirmed, that he was going in December, I was like,
okay.
No,
yeah.
My body is going, and then the last week, the kind of emotional for us, like, sure, we come to long with this, and, but yeah, we were going to listen, but he promised to come back whenever he's on holiday. He said he will come back and assist and stuff like that. So I know he's not going to be gone forever.
Right.
At this very moment, my bike is at the VS.
Yes. That's another thing too. He was a guy, he rides his bike at all hours of the night to home and back and to work and whatnot. You see him on his bicycle going to his football games and to his basketball games. And I mean, that just shows the level of commitment, of Sharon. And like I said, there's some days that Saul could be able to grasp, the entire thing and just run with it to the point where he did no supervision at all.
Wow. That's impressive. That's impressive. Your final words to him, Gavin? I know you've most likely done that already, but for yes.
Well, my final words to you, Sharon. I mean, I know what you're capable of. I mean, I know you're a very intelligent guy, and you just showed the entire world this evening, how intelligent you are. I know that you're going to go off into some very challenging fields in your studies, but I know you're very capable of excelling. And I wish you all the best, and I also hope that you continue with the sports reporting in some way or form, even if you're studying some other field, maybe you can, catch up somewhere in the States and get a little gig or a little side gig somewhere, where you can continue with your sports reporting, because like Mr. Doctor said, that's an area where you can excel. I mean, not just in radio, but also with what you're doing in TV. And you can also use the opportunity on to let the listening public know where they can find their content, through the work that you'll be doing in video as well as audio. So, all the best. I hope to see you sometime before you go again. I know it's not by
Yes, definitely. Thanks again, Gavin. I haven't told you this much over the past 2 years because honestly, you've been a very, very troublesome guy sometimes, at times. But it's always well-meaning, and again, I take your work ethic, your efficiency, your commitment, and again, the speed at which you do things, not just rushing through it, but the quality as well. I took it by example, and I will continue to use that in my ways going forward. And of course, we'll see, I think tomorrow as well, we still have the sports review to complete.
Oh my, so, really?
That's tomorrow later on.
God.
I can't leave you hanging. That's not me. Yeah, so we'll definitely see. Again, we have the playoffs to contend with, whether I'll be on the court, that's up to the leadership of the team. But we have the playoffs in the business league to contend with. I personally wish us all the best.
Thank you.
One last thing I
Sure.
About Sharon. Sharon found himself participating in every single event sport that he reported on, except for maybe fencing.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sharon found himself in a coaching course for cycling, found himself as a member of the boxing club, found himself playing lawn tennis, found himself as a member of the Harlem Sports Club.
What?
As a member of the basketball team.
I played intermediate cricket.
He played intermediate cricket as well. So he found himself with every discipline, except maybe for fencing and handball. I'm not too sure.
And domino.
Thank you so much, Gavin, for your contribution to this. We really do appreciate it. Have a good night. All right. Okay, we are still here with Sharon Burton, and that was Gavin. He's sports editor at DBS Radio, where Sharon just resigned from, as he's heading off to study. We're going to hear from Curtis Matthew in just a while. I cannot end this program without hearing from Curtis Matthew. So we will stand by for Curtis Matthew while we continue to talk about how you came to get the award in Argentina.
Well, going back at it, I was at the point of, receiving all these different faces from the different cultures and so on. Again, that was a challenge in its own right, dealing with all these different people socially as well. It was all a growing process, and that being part of it too, not just the content of what we are expected to produce. Looking back at it, and I've described it like this before, I see those 3 weeks as the most intense 3 weeks in my life. You're looking in raw terms out of it I lost 8 pounds.
Oh wow!
In
You lost 8 pounds. You
Yeah.
don't have 8 pounds to lose.
I still not down to racing weight.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, it was very, very taxing, not just again for the working for the IOC, but also for DBS Radio, and trying to do well. By the last week, it was like a battle for survival, literally too. Because again, the cold and the workload, having to produce this and that, then off to another rotation, be it broadcast, text, photography, getting selected to work on different projects. Because thankfully, well, first of all, we had about four days of in-class sessions in the main press center at the Youth Olympic Games. That was near the actual venue. I still don't know how a tent to the area
Was converted.
no, not just that, how it was so cold. It was like a meat freezer inside there. I thought it would like hold in some of it, but it was extremely cold. Maybe like 10 degrees. Some people will be laughing at that, living in New Jersey and New York and so on, but that was a real test for me. But with everything, it was very challenging. Not just that, and in the last week it was, I'm just trying to get through this alive. I developed a flu in the last couple of days, so even when I was announced as the winner, I had this flu on me, and I had to muster all my energy up together to give them a speech as well.
Oh.
So when it came to the last couple of days, it was pure relief that I'll be done with this. I knew I was getting some good feedback because I was trying to be helpful, producing what I needed to. And again, early on, after the first rotation, I got selected by the mentors, the 9 mentors we had there, to represent the Young Reporters program at a discussion they'll be having an Olympism forum, where you had the IOC president, Mr. Thomas Bach, as well as the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. It was a round table, so myself and Emma Holmsen from Sweden were invited to represent the program at that round table and ask our questions and have our inputs and so on. So that was a real honor to be recognized by the mentors, even at that early point a couple of years in. And again, the mentors were some of the best people in the field worldwide. You have an ABC sports reporter in Tracy Holmes out of Australia. Of course, the person in charge of the whole program was the head of the media operations for the International Olympic Committee himself, many years in the field. You had a award-winning photographer. You have the current editor-in-chief of the Olympic Information Service, mentoring us on text writing. You had someone who's covered the Olympic Games for decades. You have previous Stephen Parry Award winners for the best young reporters, former reporters themselves. So all of that lended itself to a great experience up there. And in the last day, to hear my name called at that low point, sitting at the back of the room, the main press center, cold again, at the back there, just trying to get through this and hear my name announced. Because, again, my peers, literally the best in the world, and people who still now submit work for ESPN Cricket Info. Any cricket fan would know that's the pinnacle of anything cricket. Cricket, submitting their works to that. So you know the standard they are, and of course I would learn from their experience to working alongside them, with them and so on. But to be recognized at that level,
huge.
It was huge. And the citation, it mentioned not only the quality of work produced, but also the quality of character shown during that time. And to hear that highlighted, that
we're not surprised.
That meant so much to me, not to have them see the character in me to push me over the top, despite all the odds. Covering the Youth Olympic Games, all these sports I've never seen. I've never seen an Olympic-sized swimming pool in my life. I've never seen field hockey, artistic gymnastics, rhythmic gymnastics, all of these sports, equestrian, horses and all that, the triathlons, all this, covering these things, and adapting to the new situation and doing so well. So with all of that, to hear my name called at the end of it was a shock, and the people in the room, they would tell you too. I spent probably like 2-3 seconds just watching after they called my name.
Was it your name that you heard?
Yeah.
Well done.
And then I came with the rest is history, and I had to manufacturer smile. I tried to hold it for the next 10, 20 minutes.
Because you know we were not well.
I wasn't bad. I wasn't on my death rows. But
Curtis Matthew should be on the line now.
Legendary.
The legendary Curtis Matthew. The award-winning Curtis Matthew. The Desmond Tutu running after interviewing Curtis Matthew. My former news editor Curtis Matthew. And a very dear friend today. The recently awarded Cicero, which of the awards called Meritorious Service Award. I don't know how many more accolades I can give to him. I really just hope it's him on the line. Is it you, Curtis?
Well, I thought Shalom was the one in the spotlight. But then, good evening to you, and Shalom. I only learned just about 3 days ago, maybe a week ago. His name is not Shalom, but Shalom.
I'm having a hard time tonight myself, Curtis, is trying to say Sharom, to the point where I wrote it as SHA-RUM, so I couldn't remember how to say it.
Yeah, I thought for the last 2 years, we all got it wrong at BBS. For the last 2 years. But it has really been a great show. I endorse what Gavin Richards said about Sharom. Gavin has been the sports editor for some time, so he and Sharon would have worked very closely together. I also heard Billy Doctorow, the president of the Dominican Olympic Committee, and so the other one he has said about Sharon is very true. Here is a young gentleman who came to BBS just around 2 years ago, and as Gavin said, he looked very timid and you were not sure. But this is the guy today who has really broken down all the barriers, and he excelled to the point where, as Gavin said, were it not for Sharon, he would not have left for the Commonwealth Games. So that is very true, because when the opportunity came, we felt, okay, well, there was somebody capable enough of running the sports department so Gavin could get the time off to go to the Commonwealth Games for 1 month. So from a young gentleman who came to BBS, timid, afraid of certain things, we're not sure, and this guy just excelled to the point where he took over the sports department, and he had very little to do in terms of supervising him, because he knew his work very well. And the confidence he brought to the department, so that I can tell you, is something that we're all very proud about. And today, we can say it's sad that he has to go to studies. Happy in a sense that he's going to study to further himself. But, I mean, having to leave the sports department at this time, it's going to create a major dent in our production of sports and media. We'll have to see how we put things together. But I can tell you, as we speak, we are still thinking, how are things going to happen without Cheryl Burton in the department at DBS? So really, he has been a tremendous young man, and we all feel very proud about Cheryl.
What are your words to him, Curtis, as he gets ready to take on this new journey in his life? Interestingly, not in the area of broadcasting, which we'll talk to him about in just a while, but what are your words to him, Curtis, as he departs soon?
As I told him a few days ago, go out there to the US and represent Dominica in the best way possible. He has the ability. He has shown over the 2 years that he can do a lot of good things. So go out there in whatever way he can to represent Dominica, be an advocate for this country, Dominica. We believe he can do it. He has the ability, and I'm very sure this young man will go on to represent in the way he does.
Any comments, Cheryl?
Yes,
Cheryl.
Either way, I didn't hear myself. Anyway, Mr. Matthew or Curtis, as I should refer to you as over the airwaves. That's what you told me. Thank you very much for the encouragement, for the example you've shown over the past few years, and a level of, well, thanks again for the rides you gave me sometimes, when I didn't have a transportation to get back home. We all know the struggle it is, working in the radio. It's not an 8 to 4 job, as Gavin mentioned. The work has to be done, it has to be produced, and you have to put it out there. So thanks for all of this. Of course, all the best in the remainder of your career. I think you have many, many years to go yet. and of course a lot to contribute to the field of broadcasting in Dominica. So thank you for all of this, and again for adding to who I am today over this past couple of years. And really, you're the epitome of hard work.
Yes.
I personally think Curtis Matthew is the funniest man in the world. He probably doesn't know it, but
Really? Are you Curtis? He said you are one of the funniest persons he knows
in the world.
in the world.